Three sevens and a three walk into a bar.
And say, let's do a podcast.
Right. Hey, this is episode 99, guys.
Woo! Whoa!
99.
That's serious.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast. Woo-hoo. I am Chris Niemeyer here with my good friends. Woo-hoo.
Oh, man. Snort.
You got to keep the snort in.
This is good radio.
You know you're having fun when you're snorting.
That was
a disclaimer here.
Words.
That was my friend Christopher McCluskey, one of the four. And Michael McGreevy and Jamie Slingerland. We are four guys who have a ton of fun together. We are crazy about our wives. We love our kids and want to kill it in business. Gosh, episode 99. This is another opportunity to dig into a topic that is going to be fun to talk about, a safe place to discuss the tensions of work and life and family. And Jamie, hey, go ahead and kick us off, man. We talked a lot about this topic and how we wanted to approach this. So tee us off. What are we talking about today? How are we going to tackle this important topic?
It's just weighty. The lifestyle that we get to live is so weighty because we have so many opportunities during the week to invest in our families, and we keep designing our business so that we can be more intentional with our family. A vulnerable conversation for me because I feel like I drop the ball every single week. And so we're just going to talk about this EFM lifestyle and the fact that there is so much responsibility when you leave your job and come home, and now you're working from home, you're there with the kids. And what do you even do at that time?
How do you design your time? How do you design your week around the things that matter to you? And we identified that each of us are doing this all in unique ways. We all explore what it's like to live as a family man throughout the week. And sometimes it's not going to be 6, 8, 10 hours in an office. It's going to be taking our kids out to a picnic or going to a water park with them or whatever. And that just has people scratching their heads sometimes. So
it is a unique burden to entrepreneurs because if you have a job that requires you to be there at least 40 hours a week or more, your burden of responsibility is on Saturday, Sunday, and from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. every day, give or take a few hours. And the moment you step into entrepreneurship, immediately you have this wide open canvas to then decide when you're going to work, when you're going to spend time with your family, when you're going to get things done. And that's the weight. There is a heaviness to that because you can literally turn the thing completely upside down and redesign it and make it exactly the way you want, which is awesome if you don't have the flexibility, but terrifying at times if you have complete flexibility. I think that's the burden you're talking about, Chris.
There is a scene in the movie The Martian. It's a great Matt Damon movie. He is stuck on Mars. His team had to take off because of an unexpected storm that rose up and risked the entire mission. So he's left there on the planet, and he's able to alert the Earth that he is alive, but he knows that it may be X number of months before anybody ever comes back. So he begins doing video recording of himself talking through the thought processes involved when he's realizing, number one, I got to survive. And the only way I'm going to survive is by thinking about all the resources I have and the time that I have available and my guess as to how long it will take for them to get a rescue mission up here. So he looks into the camera at a certain point and he simply says, okay, so let's do the math. And so that image flashed in my mind when I was thinking about this, because here we are saying, yeah, you can completely flip the thing around. Well, except that we still all only have 168 hours a week. Whether you're an employee or you're an entrepreneur, you've got a fixed number of hours. That's your time allotment. And we're really exploring the fact that when you run your own business, and especially when you run a business that you run from home, your control over how that time gets apportioned is gigantic, and it is terrifying sometimes. It's very exciting, but it's also terrifying because you can wind up just never really leaving work or never getting to work. Either one of the two extremes is possible. So I think that's just kind of an interesting metaphor for us to step into this thing with by saying, yeah, okay, we now have opportunity that very few dare even dream of. It's just not there. When you've got to hit the road and do your commute and show up and do the song and dance for X number of hours a day in a job, that's it. You're gone. You're not available to the family, your wife, anything else around the home until you walk back through the door. But the rules are different. And now we say, so how do we responsibly handle that tremendous opportunity?
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it, Chris. And I like that you said the rules are different. And guess what? We kind of get to make the rules. I mean, yes, we have that same 168 hours in our week, but we're all about here at EFM designing a business around the lifestyle that you want to live, around those that we love. And so we don't have to take that same approach that a typical 9-to-5er would take. And I know I've seen examples in coaching clients and others that we've found that they finally get away from the job and they take their time back and they go, well, now I can work from, I just saved an hour commute each way. So I can work from like 8 to 6 now because I would normally be spending that time in the car and in the business. So now I do this. And it's so easy to have that be the creep in to eat up all your time versus going, okay, there are certain rhythms throughout the week where my kids get to do this, or I want to be part of that. And I've seen each of you guys take that time. So let's just share some examples of what that's like. Because Jamie, I want to turn it to you. You've been a little quiet over here recently, which is unusual for you. I want to, you and Ruthie started Classical Conversations this year. Now that's not an everyday kind of an event for the way you teach your kids in the homeschool. But I see you being active on those days and removing yourself from the business, from your office. So how did you approach that?
It's been a major shift in our schedule. And you know what? It's just been great. Like what you said, we get to change it up, try new things. Remember the first time that we were considering homeschool, McCluskey said jokingly, how bad can somebody screw up first grade? So it's all just about iterating and trying new things. If it didn't work for our family, we wouldn't continue to do it. So we put more structure on the school week, just batching it, almost an entrepreneurial approach to homeschool. My kids, quite frankly, have really adjusted well to it. And this is kind of a mindset, right? We talked before about employee versus entrepreneurial mindset. And we've taken that approach with homeschool, and we discern a lot. We pray, we talk about it. An awesome season for me. It's been a little bit painful because we don't travel as much, but I'm embracing it. And on Wednesdays, I get all day long to do work in my business. And part of that is I walk around and I clean up the house. I plan some meals. And so I do a little bit of Mr. Mom stuff, but then I try to batch a whole bunch of work. And Wednesdays are a grind. The family comes home after a long day, we're spent, but it's good because we get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. There's a lot of learning from not only me and my business, but the kids with their CC, and Ruthie is tutoring as well. So it's stretched us, but it's been pretty sweet, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Jamie, because it is a good example of how you can approach something like this trial of Classical Conversations for your family and how you've been able to leverage your time. So that's a good example. Michael, I want to turn it to you because I remember you shared early on, and I was kind of dumbfounded that you actually tried this and did this, but you had this example where you were going to work 1 week and be off the next week, and work 1 week and be off the next week. I'm like, what? How does he do that? Now, you've adapted that over the years here, but talk about how you structure your week and what it's like because you want to be intentional with your family time.
So, Chris, I actually still do that from a client planning perspective. So all my coaching sessions land in 1 week, and then the opposite week I'm doing other things. And for me, what I've recognized is I'm not a marathon runner. I'm not a methodical type of guy that moves from one task to the next throughout the entire day and slowly makes progress. I'm either sprinting through something and just grinding it out, or I am out. So I've recognized that about me, and so I've structured my days around that same way. So I will jam in a ton of work into one whole day. Similar to what you're talking about, Jamie. Mine happens to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are really the days where I just go for it. I dive in and I'm working all day long. And sometimes I'll even have, 7-8 sessions in one day on those days. And then when Friday afternoon comes around, I never schedule anything afternoon on Friday. And even Mondays, I'm lighter on Mondays too. I know oftentimes we will record and we have our mastermind group on Mondays as well. But before that gets rolling, I need the space on Monday to collect my head, to look at all my bills, to manage the household, to get on the same page with Lydia. So I take those spaces to acclimate and to prepare for the week ahead so I can jam it out and then pull the plug completely when that's over. And that works for me.
Yeah, see, that's another great example because you're right. We're all different in how we approach the types of work that we're involved with. And some people can jam each day, but you have a very, I would say it's structured because you really did. You structured it. You found a way and a rhythm that works for you, and you've blocked these certain times off because that's just a great way to start and end your week. There's margin to be part of what is going on with the family. And I've seen you do that. You're like, hey, it's Monday morning. I don't have any calls. Like, let's go for a nice long walk and we'll stop at the coffee shop. And you can do that because you've approached this in that kind of way.
You know, Chris, what I'm thinking of right now is Peter Givens. If you've ever seen the movie Office Space, when he's super honest with the consultants that come in, he says, I probably do actually about 15 minutes of actual work a day. And I think sometimes when you have a job that you get in this mode of I have to be here from this time to this time. And if you really examine how much am I really getting done in this block of time, you probably could do most of what you get done in 2 hours or 1 hour or maybe even less. And so that's how I've approached it. I'm not just going to sit in my office because I'm supposed to be working at that time. If I have something I can do and jam it out, I'll do it. If not, I want to go do some other things.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's it's Parkinson's law, right? Like work expands to the time you allow it. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we're getting at here. Now, Chris, I want to turn it to you because that's what you've had to do and what you do throughout your week now because of your battle with Lyme's disease. You had certain times where you have energy you've got to manage. And so what does that look like as a family man too, though, knowing there's routines around all your kids' involvements and the work that has to get done?
Yeah, that's been a unique challenge, that's for sure. It wasn't one that was early in my career. I could get up in the morning and do the typical commute thing off to an office and started at 8 o'clock, which was usually when businesses, would get underway, and I'd crank all morning up to lunchtime and I was doing fine. I haven't been able to really be in the saddle at 8 a.m. doing work for more than a decade now. My body, as it's sleeping and our body is processing all the day's stuff and your food and everything when I first wake up, my body takes a long time to get through functioning well enough that I'm actually firing on all cylinders, so to speak. So my mornings are truncated, and by the time afternoon comes, there's a point where it's just like, you know what? I could still be banging the keyboard, but there's nothing much really getting done now. So time to do another medical treatment and or take a nap. So my days wind up being in 2 to 3 hour bursts with then treatments and or naps, pocketed in between. And so each of us, I think, can have some unique challenges, either because we want to do a week on, week off, or because you've got to do limitations according to your energy. But again, back to that thing with the math of this, let's do the math. I know that one of the things that we're going to encourage every single guy listening is to look at the fact that you do only have these 168 hours a week. Everybody's got that same fixed amount. When you do very simple math with that, just take some big, broad categories. Sleep. Okay, everybody's got to sleep. And I don't care if you get 8 full hours or not, you got to get ready for sleep and you got to get up from sleep. So let's just call it 8 hours, somewhere in there. 8 hours a night 7 nights a week, you need to be sleeping. Well, there's 56 of your hours. Whoop, just lop them out there, okay? Then you have some utilitarian things you have to do. You got to eat. You got to shower. You got to shave. You got a toilet. You got some basic. You got to get dressed. So you take out all those really basic utilitarian things, just like meals and preparation, cleanup, and all. And we're talking like maybe 2 full hours a whole day if we're being conservative with everything that has to be done. 2 hours a day. Well, there's 14 more hours. You keep doing that through, and you say, well, okay, basic stuff like mowing the yard or car and home maintenance or paying bills, bookkeeping, banking, taxes, whatever else. Maybe 1 to 2 hours a day, probably 2 a day of something in the home that's broken and needing attention. If you do any television watching, this is my time, well, television, surfing the web, Google searching things, pretty soon you're knocking out another hour and a half, maybe 2 hours a day. Believe it or not, you get down to about 75 hours, 73 hours, something like that, a week left. We haven't touched work yet. We haven't touched work. And if you're going to work probably your own business, you're not just putting in 40 hours a week. We're not punching a clock. So 40, 50 hours a week, probably on your business. If you work 60 hours, if you're working, 10-hour days, you just got to really ask yourself, wait a minute, I haven't addressed dating my wife, my kids, sports events, activities, help with homework, church, boards and committees, trips. I mean, there's nothing else in it. Do the math. And it's so sobering. It's disturbing, but it's fixed, and we can make it work in a number of creative ways. I think the onus is really on us to start with doing that math.
That's a good exercise to start with that. You're right. It's fixed. And so how do you approach what you want as your ideal? As the leader of your household, as the leader of your family, how am I going to take those extra 70 hours I have left and make sure that I'm a present husband, engaged father, and, like we say, still kill it in business? How does that happen, though?
I'm going to be clear with the 70 hours. That was not counting work. So the 50 to 60 hours comes out of that. Yeah, we've only got like 12 to 15 hours a week to apportion to all those things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to work 40 to 50 hours a week, because I want my percentages to be way different than that. I want my family time to be somewhere in, well, let's call it the everything else time, including family and
togetherness,
other things, togetherness.
Yeah.
But I want those to be heavy on the everything else side and light on the work. And you ask a good question, Nehemiah, just about, well, how do you do that? Because clearly you're cutting out a big portion of the time that you devote to work. And I like talking about this stuff because there's ways to do this a whole lot different. I remember one day I was working on my own website, and I don't usually use curse words, but that day I probably used my allotment for the year just because I was so frustrated with trying to make the stupid WordPress thing work. And I remember having a conversation with Jamie, and he's like, it's not a big deal. Why don't you just call somebody from Fiverr and have them help you with it, and just to move it forward. It's not going to be the perfect website. It'll at least move you past this spot where you're getting all frustrated and hung up and spending way too many hours. It turns out I had this woman from Pakistan do a website for me for $150, and the thing looked great. I mean, I've done a lot on it since then. There's just a lot of ways to hire people and to get help, so you're not sitting there pulling your hair out in your office when you could be doing things that are so much more valuable to you and your family.
I'm glad you said that, Michael. When McCluskey was giving all the math to it, I think it creates a really clear picture that we do have a disadvantage depending on how we look at it. For me, that's a big why I want to be successful as an entrepreneur, to give myself back those hours like you were talking about, Michael. I don't want to have to trade in time for productivity. And I think that's the coolest thing ever, being an entrepreneur, that we don't have to spend 3 weeks and spend 75 hours building our own website. We have resources now that we've never had before, ever. Even, I said, together time. I'm with you. I don't want to have to work 40 to 50 hours a week. And I mean, there's times when we have to ramp things up that there's no way out of doing some big, heavy lifting. And maybe it's going to be a lot more than 40 hours, but that's a means to an end for me. And I know, McCluskey, that you can't work 40 to 50 hours. You need to manage your energy. How cool is it that you can make a really good living, still be around your family, and still offer amazing value to the people that we serve? There's definitely a big mindset in this thing that we have to believe that it is possible for us to do more in less time. It is a Sunday school answer, but really trust God to give us the resources, the inspiration. We need help because we can't do it ourselves. And we sure as heck don't want to do it in our own strength because 3 of us are 7s, and that's just no fun.
Well, I'm going to go back to Chris to what you said about Parkinson's law, that notion that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Boy, we can exercise a great deal of control over that by saying, I'm just not going to allow myself. I don't have to wait until sickness forces me to have a restricted time. I can decide I ain't working more than X number of hours on this project this day, period. And son of a gun, you'll find a way to get it done. Most times you will actually be able to work that. And I think one of the vestiges that we carry over from our employee mindset, which almost all of us were raised with and probably lived in the marketplace for a number of years, one of the last vestiges that we carry of that mindset into our entrepreneurism is the notion of the roughly 8 to 5 day. Yeah. Entrepreneurship. Sorry, I saw Chris's smile there. Into entrepreneurship. I don't know if I'll ever get that word right.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Growth is so painful. One of the things we pull into entrepreneurship from the years of employment is the classic 8 to 5 work mindset. And there's nothing that says we have to follow that except ourselves. Yep. And so maybe there's a good challenge for everybody really just listening. Don't wait for health or other kinds of life conflicts to cause you to question the amount of time. Question it yourself. Do I actually need this much time to be doing X in the business? If I didn't use that much time, what else would I spend that time? Oh, wow, what else could I do with the kids and the wife? That's a great conversation to have with yourself.
I don't know, you guys could jump in with me and McGreevy in this because we were a little bit slackers in college. Maybe you had a class or two that you weren't quite applying yourself to, but I mean, McGreevy and I have had conversations about courses that we've taken that we pulled out A's and B's just at the last hour of digging deep, finding some strength and energy that we didn't even know was there. That same spirit is alive and well for the EFM guy, believing that we can maximize and leverage time to get way more out of it than what we could just if we're an employee. There's so many different projects that we need to have that same ideology that time does not equal productivity. We need to leverage that passion and pull out some stops so we can spend more time with our family.
Oh, there's something deeper here that I have to mention. Is this not a badge of honor how many hours I put in? Like that, I can hear a man saying that right now, that mantra of, I work long hours to make this thing happen. Busyness is a badge of honor for a lot of men. And that's a big mindset shift of letting that go of, well, maybe not. Maybe shorter hours should be a badge of honor. I know that it is for us at EFM. I'm listening to, I can't get Lloyd Christmas out of my head from Dumb and Dumber, but I hear him saying, yeah, there's no jobs in this town. Yeah, unless you want to work 40 hours a week. And I used to laugh my butt off at that. And now I'm like, he was onto something. Because, yeah, 40 hours a week is a little high given how I want to spend my time and how intentional I want to be with the hours that I am working.
We drove around all day and there's not a single job in this town. There is nothing, nada, zip. Yeah, unless you want to work 40 hours a week.
You guys are bringing more color to this because it's true that this can be a big badge of honor, that idea of busyness. Right, that idea that McCluskey shared, that we all have that residue, even if we're entrepreneurs, we have that residue of being an employee and putting in the time. And to go back to what we said earlier, if this is the math, this is the reality of the work we have, and yet we get to make the rules and we get to say, this is important to us. My wife, my kids, their activities, their growth, fostering that, that's more important. So I am I am going to find ways. In fact, I will find ways to work smarter, not harder. I'm going to find the guys in Pakistan that can do the website for a fraction of the time it would have taken me and all the frustration. And in fact, that's really part of what even spurred this whole conversation. Is we had a great mastermind conversation today, Michael, that you led about our unique abilities, our areas where we're competent in, the things we do in our business to move forward. But a lot of the stuff, if we're truly being honest, it's that busy work. It's because we say, you know what? I've got to put in the hours. Man, I would much rather get back to as close to a 4-hour work week as that 40-hour work week. And I think that's what we're calling guys to do, is to live in this way. So what about you? When it comes to this topic of, it's a burden to be an entrepreneur, to create your own schedule, your own time, to manage the math that we were talking about. But maybe this is a simple opportunity for you to really go through your math, go through a time inventory. What is it that you actually do on a daily and a weekly basis to move your business forward? But what does your wife and kids want more of your time to be part and present in what they're doing? If you're dropping your kids off at school, or if they're in school, make sure that you're part of that conversation. Make sure that you're part of that flow and that rhythm. If you can take off on a Tuesday, 11 a.m. to go be part of something that's special at events and activities, do that. Work your schedule around those things that matter most to you in this life. We are here to support you in that, to encourage you in that. So feel free to reach out at efmlife.com, jump into our Facebook group. We're happy to support you in truly living an extraordinary life.